if you're lucky enough, see me in person. So welcome to this mentor conference. This is a massive, I mean, this was always going to be a massive thing that we were going to do. And you'll see from the agenda, the keynote at the end, we've asked Wes to join us from two counties to talk about change, more generally about change, not necessarily teacher training related. And this was way before it was announced what's happening next week, obviously July the 4th. So even more change is going to be happening in our world, isn't it? But predominantly it was going to be about change. And that's what the idea was around this, because we know that for September 24, this year, is when the market review. We've all been working. You've heard me talk about it loads of times on previous webinars. It's something we've been working for at least 2 years, if not longer, 3 years now, towards September 24 for the market review changes for initial teacher training. And one of the big things, the big changes, was around mentoring. But we've always felt that it was changes for the better, to make it better for you, because we always say this, but you are the most valued people within this network, because without you, they literally would all fall apart. It's a house of cards, and it would fall apart because there'd be no school placements. And we know the key to it. We can do online sessions, and we can do training sessions and all those sort of bits. But without the trainees going into your schools and experience the brilliant work that you do with children and young people, they wouldn't be able to train to be a teacher. So without you, without the mentors, without the schools, none of this would happen. So the mentor curriculums that have come in, and Lisa will talk a bit more about that, we think have been a brilliant change, and hopefully you'll see that as well, that we're going to make it as smooth for you as possible. If you really experience with us or experience with mentoring, we're not going to hold you back with loads of training and all those sort of bits. We can make it as smooth as possible for everyone to really gain and add to. Even the most experienced mentors we've got, who have been doing it for years, probably been doing it for decades. There's still something that you can gain from it. There is still that CPD, education informed research, and everything that we know is in modern learning. Will be part of our program as well. So hopefully everyone, whatever stage you're at with your mentoring career and journey, there'll be something for you in this, and we'll talk through all that as we go through. But without you, it wouldn't be able to happen. Really appreciate you being here, and it's the biggest change for September, alongside the ITAP. So ITAP, there will be almost like a webinar and a bit of training on, which we'll talk about. If you don't know much about ITAPs, you'll be able to take part in that as well. You'll see I'll be demonstrating later on the software we've got that can really support your asynchronous learning of some of the CPD we're talking about. So ITAP's mentors, biggest two things. Today we're talking about mentor and mentor training, and everything that comes with it, whatever pathway you're on. So thanks for those who filled in that diagnostic. That'll be really important moving forward, to really bespoke what you want and what you need from this training across the next year. That's my welcome. I'd also like to welcome some colleagues with me. So we've got Ben and Jane in the background. So they'll be in the background. If you have any issues, they'll sort out those sort of bits. We're also joined by Lisa Van. She'll introduce herself in a bit. And also we've got our three hub leads in Marie, Chantel and Phil. And we've also got a new hub lead for next year. We've got Kirsty as well, who's joining us from our Leicestershire secondary cohort as well. But you'll get to meet lots of people. We've got breakout rooms later on. You'll be able to meet some of these people in those breakout rooms. So that's my welcome. Hopefully I've rambled enough to allow people then to enter the room. So over to you, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Dirk. And I'm going to move us on now to the next part of the session, which is really to highlight to you the agenda and what's coming up this afternoon. We are going to start by looking at the mentor curriculum and giving you some further details on the new requirements. Dirk's going to talk you through LMS 365. It's going to be a demonstration to show you something that's going to be really useful to you as a mentor. And then later on, you're going to be meeting with different hub leaders, depending on your level of experience of mentoring so far. And then we'll be finishing this afternoon with our presentation, our keynote from Wes Davies, CEO of the Two Counties Trust. So really looking forward to spending the next few hours with you and talking through this really important role. As Dirk said, mentoring is so vital to what we do and how we support our trainees. Without mentors, we wouldn't see the growth in our trainees that we do with your support. So we do want to start by saying thank you. Now, this short section is going to take about 20 minutes. I'm going to talk to you about the mentor curriculum and the new design for that, based on DFE requirements, DFE funding, that's going to support this as we progress into 2024-25. As Dirk said, there's been a number of changes and developments with initial teacher training for 2024, and we're delighted that we've been reaccredited as a provider of initial teacher training. And as I say, we're going to talk through the specifics now for you to be clear. If you have any questions, do put them into chat. We're developing an FAQ document to support mentors with any queries that they might have around the changes. And so I therefore encourage you to ask any questions using chat, and we'll aim to address those in this session or in our follow-up FAQ. And as Dirk said, my name's Lisa Van. I'm the early career lead at Flying High Teaching School Hub. So may well have worked with you in your work as ECT mentors, or as in other ways that you're working with new teachers in and around our school communities. So firstly, I'm going to start by talking to you around the mentor funding and some key information around that. As a general mentor, and the DFE's general mentor definition is someone who is working in the school who has the one-to-one relationship with the trainee teacher. So for us, we call our general mentors class mentors, and in primary, and mentors in secondary. So we've got this role of someone who is working on a day-to-day basis with the trainee, and they are eligible to claim £876 per year for next academic year, and that works out at £43.80 an hour. So you have that opportunity to claim for the work that you do. Your school has the opportunity to claim for the work that you do to support our trainees. Now, this funding can be used in a range of different ways. If you turn to the right-hand side of the slides here, you can see that this can be used to support someone to be taken, for someone else to take over your lessons, for someone to teach if you as a mentor take time off in lieu, and it can be used for overtime payments too. That will be subject to your school's local decisions. The other thing to note here is the requirement of 1.5 hours per week for you to meet with your trainee. Now, that doesn't mean a 1.5 hour meeting as a solid amount of time. It can do, but it doesn't have to. It can be around check-ins, short catch-ups, alongside those meetings that we need you to do to support the Inspiring Leaders curriculum. So, as a new mentor, we're asking you to complete a self-audit, which will identify one of 3 pathways for you as a mentor. It's a short diagnostic. Some of you may well have done it before the conference today. For the rest of you, we can share it with you in future. There are 3 different sections, as you'll know perhaps from working with us in the past, that we have 3 different approaches. So we've got our new mentors, and they are our introducing mentors, those mentors who haven't had experience of mentoring yet and are moving into this role to support their own professional development. Secondly, we have our embedding mentors, those who are perhaps new to Inspiring Leaders, but have experience of being a mentor. You may well have been a mentor for a different ITT provider, or you may have been an experienced mentor for a program such as the Early Career Framework. And thirdly, we have our refining mentors, and they're mentors who've worked with us in Inspiring Leaders, so are familiar with the Inspiring Leaders program and also familiar with the format of mentoring for ITT. And so for your 20 hours, there are different ways of being able to arrange that time. And here's a suggestion for how you might make up those 20 hours. So if we look at the first column, for example, as a new mentor, this conference today is classed as 3 hours of training. We're going to talk to you about the LMS videos that are going to be available to you, but that could, we suggest, take up 6 hours. 6 hours of meetings per of 1 hour at least every half term with your hub. Now, they've always happened, but you haven't been able to make a claim for the funding for those in the past. And then you'd have that opportunity for some bespoke training that's identified through the self-audit that you'll have completed. For an embedding mentor, for one who's new to Inspiring Leaders but is an experienced mentor, you can see there how you may make up those 20 hours. The conference today will be part of that 20 hours, alongside the option of a range of different training videos that will be provided on LMS, the meetings that you attend with your hub leaders, and then any prior learning, bespoke training. Now, with prior learning, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a later slide, but essentially that means that you've perhaps got experiences or you've completed programs that that you feel are suitable and supported by for the mentoring role. And we do offer exemptions. I'll talk more about that in a little while. As an experienced Inspiring Leaders mentor, again, the conference is part of those hours, alongside the LMS videos, the meetings that you will attend with Hub, and then you may well have prior learning that you can claim hours for. So that's how we could potentially make up those 20 hours. Now, just to share the process here and how things work, because there are some slight adaptations based on the new guidance. And if I start with the flowchart on the left-hand side, as a teacher with M4 plus experience, you've been assigned to this role as a mentor. And so you'll continue to meet with your mentor, with your trainee, and you'll support your trainee. You will be observing them in lessons, and you'll also be attending review meetings with them, setting targets, and then with the support of a learning coach in primary, an induction tutor in secondary, in school, you'll have their support as again, another point of contact, and a professional tutor. There are some slight variations to that as we progress with the new format, in that you may well have found in primary that a learning coach has undertaken more of those lesson observations and perhaps review meetings in the past. And this is more related to primary than secondary, I would suggest, and that that role will move towards the class mentor, because the mentor is, of course, the person who's eligible for the funding. Now, as a mentor, you'll be completing your self-audit as a diagnostic to identify your level of training, your level of experience. And through that, we can then consider any previous experience for exemptions. And then, of course, you can complete the training. But the training will include the meetings that you have with Hub leaders, the half-termly meetings that happen with the professional tutors, the mentor conference, and the online learning. So you can see that there's a range of different ways that help to build up your 20 hours so that your school can claim for the funding. Now, let's just think about what the mentor curriculum is. At Inspiring Leaders, we've separated our mentor curriculum into 5 different elements. And you'll find that this is quite common around initial teacher training with other providers too, where it's segmented, and that again will help with those exemptions as we move forwards. So we have mentor skills, mentor knowledge, mentor qualities, engaging with evidence, and developing expertise. And these will support the work that we already have issued through our mentor handbook. So to unpick these a little bit further, in the mentor skills section, and I won't expect or ask you to read through all of this at the moment, you will have time in breakout rooms to look at this a bit more closely. But the mentor skills section is around your understanding and appreciation of mentoring and of coaching, of using instructional coaching, of how to handle more challenging conversations. And there'll be a range of sessions to support your you to develop your mentor skills. You may, of course, feel that you already have experience in those areas. You may have been a mentor for an ECT. You may have been a mentor for a trainee with another ITT provider. So you may feel you have that experience of mentoring and coaching from previous roles. You may have attended training programs through your local providers, through your multi-academy trust, for example, that focus in on those roles of mentoring and coaching. And then in mentor knowledge, this relates more to Inspiring Leaders. So in mentor knowledge, it's around the sections that make Inspiring Leaders Inspiring Leaders. So for example, understanding the Inspiring Leaders curriculum, and we have our Inspiring Leaders curriculum weave, that's our curriculum design. We have IL6, we have a range of enrichment opportunities alongside understanding how our PGCE works. And there are some exciting developments with our PGCE element with university that Dirk will share with you in a moment. Mentor qualities is around the qualities that we think we need to be mentors, particularly exploring how to build those positive relationships with our trainees, and also understanding some of the elements of Inspiring Leaders as a skit, and knowing who the central team is, knowing how to move things forward should you need to. Engaging with evidence is very much around understanding the wider picture of initial teacher training, understanding the ITT curriculum, the core content framework, and the developments that are coming with that, actually, with the introduction of the ITT ECF that will be coming into 2025. There'll be opportunity there for you to think about how you can develop your own phase knowledge or your own subject specialism to support you to be the very best teacher you can be, so that you can share that knowledge with your trainee. And then finally, around developing your expertise. So how, as a mentor, can you develop your skills? How can you build your network? How can you collaborate with others to support you to develop your expertise within that particular area of mentoring? And so there are a range of different options that are available to you in order to be able to meet with all different elements of the mentor curriculum. There'll be LMS videos. There is a range of different sessions that you can attend that are led by NASBET, for example, and other ideas here to share that will look to support you with your role as a mentor. And as I think I've shared with you already, that's an idea of how that can work.
Sorry, Lisa, could you just go back on? Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Just saying that, what it does say at the bottom there is about the refresher. So that's something that I put on. So I thought I might mention that now. So this is 20 hours of initial training. So what the DfE is saying is that every mentor needs to either have done or covered 20 hours of initial training, no matter what the pathway and what your experience level is. The plan, obviously, before July the 4th was announced, was that then, and it wasn't funded anyway, so it was never funded, this part of it, was then they'd say every year you'd do a 6-hour refresher. But as Lisa said quite clearly earlier on, the 6 hours are the meetings you already do, the moderations you meetings you do, etc., with hub leads. So as a bare minimum, we'd expect to do that every year anyway. It was never costed. We kept asking the DfE for that costing, and they wouldn't. Obviously, now that there possibly will be a change of government. So that's the plan. Would be you do 20 hours initial mentor training, and then every year you do the 6-hour refresher, and that they never committed to any money linked to that. But that's how that would work. So I imagine that would be the plan still going forward, that those 6 hours would be the commitment, but you commit a lot more than that. We know that you already do by coming today and doing those hourly half-term meetings. You've already done 9 hours, haven't you? So already you're doing more than what the minimum refresher is, alongside everything else. Things like shadow visits, when the hub lead comes and shadow visits with you, any further study you do, etc. So we know that you're more than doing those hours for those refreshers. But I thought I'd mention that at this point, Lisa, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's perfect. And following on from that, I think the professional tutor role, you'll have your trainee will have a professional tutor who will come to visit you. And those visits, half-termly generally, will be another opportunity for you to build up that 20 hours. And they're sessions where the professional tutor will come and visit and check in with you and with your
Are you still with us, Lisa? I think she's gone. I've not got control of the slides, and I could have carried on. Just while we wait for Lisa, is there any immediate questions? We are going to go on to the prior learning section next. So any questions about the things that we've talked through so far? Just while we wait for Lisa to be dialed back in again. What I'll do, just while we wait for Lisa, I'm just going to load up. I've got copies of the slides as well, so I'm just going to load them up. So just apologies for a second. Think about any questions. Put your hand up. Okay, someone's asked a question about does the school sort funding? Yeah, so basically what will happen is we'll send the guidance to the schools, but basically the schools will apply directly to DfE, so we won't necessarily be involved in that. So as long as you start your training from, I think it was from April this year all the way through to next summer, if you do any form of training during that period, then the following financial year you then claim for that money. Is how it's going to work. So we'll send the guidance out to the schools if they've not seen it, and that's how it will work. And you'll apply directly to the DfE, and then they'll send you that money there. to be honest with you, just while I'm loading the slides, but I've got them now. When we've been speaking to schools, I thought originally like it might be the money might have been the big thing, like that money, you know, and your cover and or paying people for overtime. Actually, a lot of the response from head teachers has been we're not as concerned about the money, we're more concerned about the 20 hours. So I think at the moment, just while I let Lisa back in, we're thinking we're slightly shifting. Originally, we're putting a lot of onus on them. The money is still there. Do you know what I mean? I would say definitely if you're doing those 6 hours, you come into today, definitely claim the money. But in terms of that, we are doing our very best to make sure that prior learning is accredited for, which it's not worth money. But if it isn't about the money and it's more about the head teacher in my school just saying they can't release me for 20 hours or I don't want to be doing 20 hours of learning in my own time, the prior learning is going to be key and covering that. So we'll talk about that next, if that's helpful for people. I'm just going to load up. Lisa, are you back with us? If not, I can share mine. I think she's having problems since I'll share my screen.
Dirk, there's a couple of other questions in the chat. So this is a primary one from Emma. Is the training required for mentors or learning coaches as well?
No, the learning coaches will be optional. An email went out to primary schools about the difference between the current way that learning coaches and class mentors work and the move forward. Because Lisa's gone. Are you back, Lisa?
I'm back. I'm sorry, I lost connection then. I'm so sorry.
But no, we're just answering. I was about to load the slides up myself. We're just answering questions. So yeah, in terms of that, basically the way that the DfE guidance was, we're unique. There's a lot of things that make us unique. Lisa mentioned before we were re-accredited. We actually got through the first round. There weren't many providers who got through the first round of re-accreditation, and we're outstanding Ofsted. But also in primary, we have a third layer of support, which is the learning coach, which we still really, really value. Don't think the DfE had ever considered having something like a learning coach. I think we're quite unique. I don't think anyone else in the country has anything like that, which is a bit like an ITT coordinator for those in secondary. But at primary schools, and a lot of primary schools are probably too small to have that sort of role. So we're quite unique in that instance. What it meant was when the new DfE requirement came out around this, not just the funding attached to it, but also the compliance of what mentors are expected to have done, which is the 20 hours, whether it's funded or not, it's a one-to-one relationship, which learning coaches aren't. So what we've said is actually we've had to make that slight shift. So learning coaches, I'm sure are on the call today. You're still highly, highly valued, and I've sent out, and we've had a working party group of learning coaches to look at the new criteria. Is you'll still come along to this training, this conference, but the DfE wouldn't allow you to apply for the funding because you haven't got a one-to-one relationship with the trainee. That's the class mentor. So that's where the slight shift is there. So learning coaches will still be valued. And there was no money available previously for any training, was there? And people gave up time. But it'll be the class mentors who will do a lot more of the observations, but learning coaches will certainly still be feeding in and supporting mentors and the trainee with that. Just while, because Lisa's she's physically disappeared this time. Just looking now at the other questions we've got. The log. We'll talk about the log in a bit for that one. So yeah, we'll look at the log. There will need to be a log. So basically it's 4 to the 24, 25, and there was a really strict cut-off point. So any training, we're going to move on to it now. Actually, it's a perfect timing. But any training that happened prior, as we'll talk about now, these ones will count but won't be worth the money. So this is prior learning you can't claim. It's only new training you claim the money for, which is £43.80 per hour, which Lisa mentioned before. But it's at any point. So from today, this is new training. This 3 hours here can be claimed for. And then moving into next year, you don't have to complete it all before you have a trainee. So moving forward, with those half-termly meetings, that will still be training. So it's training throughout the year up until the end of next year. So any point from now until the end of next year will be training as you go along. And we've got one more, then we'll move on to we'll cover lots of questions throughout. I'm sure there'll be time. We've got lots of time left before we have a break anyway. So job share, so job share is covered. So with job shares, both people are eligible to do the 20 hours because it is in the criteria framework about job share. And we're going to talk about that now, about previous experience having been a learning coach or mentor before, and would it count? So, but if it's really, really interesting that even if you spend an hour with a trainee and then for whatever reason it doesn't continue, you still do 20 hours and you still can get paid the 20 hours. So it's really interesting. And even if like you've been sent by your school today, and then for whatever reason your placement falls through and the trainee withdraws, hopefully they don't, the trainee withdraws before the course starts, you still claim for the training. So yeah, so everyone who has a mentor role with the trainee will need to have done up to 20 hours, we'll talk about now, and can also claim. That's even if you've done an hour or even if they don't start the course. Hopefully that's answered that one for JobShare. Sorry, Lisa, we'll move on to the bespoke training and prior learning then.
That's okay. Sorry, I completely lost internet connection there. My apologies for disappearing on you. So back to the programme. Bespoke training and prior learning is an essential part of the 20 hours and can be. And as Dirk's already talked through, there are different options that you can claim for. So, for example, if you've completed the NPQ LTD, that would give you an exemption of 7 hours. If you've been an ECF mentor, again, down to 7 hours. And these have been mapped to the ILTT mentor curriculum, also linking in with the different sections of the different qualifications that you're looking at. So we've very carefully mapped out what is it that you complete in an NPQ LTD that really links with ITT mentoring, and the same with ECF mentoring too. You may already be an experienced Inspiring Leaders mentor, and that would give you up to 4 hours of exemption because you're familiar with Inspiring Leaders, you know about the different processes and structures. If you've been a mentor, or if you're going to be a mentor with another ITT provider, then locally we've come to an agreement that if you're completing training with one ITT provider, that actually a lot of that will be overlapping with our curriculum. And so therefore we've got a mutual agreement across our community for 10 hours of an exemption because you'll be completing it elsewhere. It may well be that you've also completed some coaching training, and therefore we will be able to look at those on a case-by-case basis to identify how many hours of exemptions that will work towards, mapped to our curriculum. And again, the same for any other relevant training. So this is something that we'll talk to you around once you've completed the diagnostic. So there are a lot of ways that you can gain exemptions for the training so that that can be part of the 20 hours.
Lisa, it's worth saying at this point, actually, on the bottom of that is if you send us the overview of the program, that'll make it really useful for us to do that mapping, because we're not just saying it because we're being recorded and we've got 65 people online. We really will spend time mapping it across to make sure it's accurate, because what we don't want is, we don't know how strict the DfE will be over this. It's going to be a lot of money for the DfE to pay for this across the country. So I imagine it'll be quite strict. Hence the reason why someone asked about the logging the hours, that they will ask the school for evidence of it, and they'll ask us as well. And likewise with this, any prior learning, as I said before, we think this is what head teachers and mentors want. They want the prior learning. They want it covered. They're not as concerned about the money. We'll need to map it across. So if you've done it on your own, send it across. If there's a staff team, you've done something, and we'll then keep a database of training. So if someone says, oh, I've done this, and we'll go, oh, someone else did that, we'll be able to go, we've mapped it before, as long as the criteria doesn't change and our curriculum doesn't change, and it'll be worth this number of hours. Lisa, in the chat, someone mentioned about the NPQ LTD. So because you're completing it during the year, by the time you come to claim the hours, which is it's for next financial year, you'll claim it, then you'll have done the full course. It'd be worth 7 hours. If for whatever reason it spans before the end of next year, you'll get a percentage of it. So if you're an ECT mentor this year, and you've done 1 year of the training, you'd have 3.5 hours, because your second year would be the following year, is how that would work. And then my final thing on the generic mentor training complete with another provider, as Lisa said, what you'll get there, you'll get a certificate which will have everyone's logo signed up to it. So when you complete some training with us, you'll get one from us. And then if you then go and work with another university or another skip provider that you also work with, a lot of schools do, the bigger schools certainly do, then they will then count that for 10 hours of prior learning as well. And as we've said before, you can't then claim them 10 hours money wise, but then you'd only need to do 10 hours of generic stuff for their local skip. If it happens that you're working with someone who hasn't got their logo on the certificate, which there might be one or two across the whole of the East Midlands, it might be one or two who've decided not to, for whatever reason, sign up to it, we would accept them anyway. So let's say you went X provider or X university aren't on your certificate, I would look at it, and actually professional judgment would be, they're going to be of good quality. If they've been rated by Ofsted, and if they've been reaccredited for September, they're going to be of good standard. And I know everyone in the East Midlands anyway, I can speak to them directly if needs to. So we'll accept it that way. It would. The only thing I can't say is whether they'd accept it the other way if they're not part of that certificate. Whether they'd accept Inspiring Leaders training, I can't say, but we will definitely accept other people's, whether they're on the certificate or not. But 99% of local providers and universities across the whole of the East Midlands and beyond, with we're going even further than that. We're going up to, is Lincolnshire East Midlands? We're going up to Lincoln and places like that. I'm not sure whether that's just on the cusp of the East Midlands and goes to be in the north. I'm not sure. North of Watford Gap, people often say, don't they? Then we're all northerners. So that's on that. But as I've said there, 14 hours. I think I mentioned this when I took over for a little period with the questions. That's to leave the 6. So we don't really want any more than 14 hours covered, because though as a bare minimum, those 6 hours need to be covered of those meetings, their moderation meetings, those half-termly meetings, an hour of a piece. And as I said before, you're doing 3 hours today as well, so you wouldn't even need to cover 14 hours. You'd only need to cover 11 hours of prior learning. So I'm sure lots of you will be ticking all this off, and we'll be doing it and supporting you on that. Thanks, Lisa. Sorry to waffle.
That's okay. Thank you. Thanks, Dirk. On the learning platform, we'll give you a demo of that in a short while. But you can see that we've split the different training sections into the different strands of the Mentor curriculum. And there'll be a range of different short video clips with opportunity for reflection and for further learning identified. So this is a starting point for that LMS 365 that will be available to you to use. Some of these videos are very short, 10-minute clips, with the resources linked to them to support you with the training. The ones that are highlighted in blue at the moment are things that we will say will be the kind of compulsory sessions that will talk through the different updates, changes, things that we feel are really important for everyone to have accessed, with a range of different options to support you depending on your level of experience. You'll log your hours through a short and simple form like this one here, that will provide you with an opportunity to record the date of the training, what the training was, and how many hours that would take. Each one of these sessions, although they may be shorter, will be classed as at least 30 minutes of training. So you can record those, and there's a wide range of others that will be added to that as well, alongside your PT visits, your hub meetings, and any other training that you might have done. I'm going to pass over to Dirk now. Dirk's going to talk to you about the University of Derby PGCE element, which is useful for you to have a better understanding of as we move forward into next academic year. So over to you, Dirk.
Thanks, Lisa. And actually, the fuller version of this about the actual how the assessment's going to work will be one of those pieces of training, as was mentioned on Lisa's little diagram previously. So some of you may know this, some of you may not, which is why I'm going to talk through it now. But we made the decision to move away from our current HEIs and move to the University of Derby from next year for our PGC element. There's a number of reasons for this, and I'll go through them all now. Firstly, the University of Derby PGC course is spread across the year. So currently, a lot of universities, including the two we were using, it was for the autumn and spring term. And we just felt we made lots of changes about like handing dates and all sorts of things, but there was no getting away from the fact of you starting a new course, going into school for the first time, your teaching commitments start stepping up. In the spring term, a lot of people changed school placement, etc. So actually having the bulk of the PGC across 2 terms, workload wise, was a lot for our trainees. And a lot of the feedback we got was that it was great, but a lot of the feedback was actually it was a lot of work when we had crunch times in school and on the course. So the University of Derby, the fact they spread it across the year, we felt workload wise would be really good. So each term, what will happen is there'll be 4 sessions. One of them is face-to-face, but that is local, so that they will never have to go to University of Derby if they don't want to. 2 are online, and 1 is asynchronous that will be released, and then they'll have a period of time to complete it. So again, we felt that that idea of a lot of travel involved, having up to 12 days of travel, We go from Sheffield down to Northampton now. So actually, traveling to either Northampton or Leicester University, Nottingham or Leicester University was quite a lot. Parking, Leicester University, and for those who live in Leicester city centres, parking's very expensive and not a lot of it about. And at NTU, you had to buy like a parking permit and stuff for their campus. So there was a big cost there in terms of travel and time for travel and cost for parking as well. So the blended approach we felt was something that we would like, and the trainees certainly gave us feedback around that moving forward as well. I mentioned before about it being spread across the year, so that does directly link to the assessments as well. So currently, our trainees would complete 2 5,000-word assignments. Again, as I mentioned before, autumn, when it's getting dark and cold and you experience that for the first time, handed in a 5,000-word assignment. And then again in the spring, when you might be moving schools to a new school you don't know, doing another 5,000-word assignment. Our trainees always commented on that. So this spreading across the year actually means that the assignments are smaller. So there's one 4,000-word assignment. Then there's a 3,000-word critical bibliography. So not as intense as a full assignment, and it's obviously a smaller word commitment as well. And then the summer term will be a poster presentation, which we felt that spreading that workload of those 10,000 words would be better, I think, for our trainees. Trainees will still have access to all the facilities of a physical university. That's the library. If they want to go physically, they can, or it's online. The tutorials, again, are available. Wellbeing, mental health and wellbeing sessions are available as well. They can access up to 3 of them a year if they do need to. All the and everything that's linked to that as well. So all the things that are linked to, maybe if you need to do dyslexia assessments, if you need support with EAL, everything that a physical university offers will be able to offer. A student count card. I actually went to University of Derby campus last week, and it's beautiful if you've not been. There's a subway on site. I mean, what more do you need? I love a subway. And then also the reputation of University of Derby as well. So recognised all around the world, really, really strong up and coming university. And we couldn't release this when we first shared this information with schools. We weren't allowed to say because it hadn't been released, but they are outstanding Ofsted now as well. So it's a perfect partnership. We're outstanding Ofsted, and our PGC provider are outstanding for Ofsted as well. And the other big thing was around the level 7 pass rate. So our current HEIs are doing brilliantly. We're really increasing them over the last few years. We've done a lot of work on making sure we increase those getting a level 7 pass rate. University of Derby have 100% level 7 pass rate, whereas previously we'd have a few trainees probably drop down to a level 6, which is not a full PGCE. It's a professional certificate. So all of that meant we felt it was the right decision. As I say, there'll be a further sort of like webinar, bit of training you can do about how the assessments will work, because I'm sure you'll want to know as your role as mentor, but I thought I'd give you a little heads up now. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Dirk. We do have a mentoring handbook, and we can share that with you. It is currently being updated with these new developments and new changes ready for September. So we'll share the new version with you as soon as it is ready. And that brings us to the end of this session. So I'm now going to stop sharing my screen and hand over to Dirk, who's going to talk to you around LMS 365. So this will be the resources of training that you'll be able to access.
Thanks, Lisa. Just a couple of questions before I'm sure more will come through. I'll answer these ones first. So first thing we had was about prior learning. So yeah, just to reiterate on that. So prior learning will be great because it means you'll do less hours, but the money is only available for new learning from today onwards. So today's 3 hours of worth. If you've done MPQ, MPQ won't count. So even if you're doing MPQ next year, it still counts as prior learning, if that makes sense. So quite a complicated one. So MPQ will count for the hours, but can't be claimed for. Only sort of like our training will count, but we can certainly count those hours. Someone's asked about a level 5 leadership apprenticeship with National College of Education. Yeah, so that's one that if you send the overview and we will map it, and it'll be mapped against our curriculum, which Lisa's explained really well earlier, actually. So you might do, that might be worth 50 hours, but obviously it won't cover 50 hours of ours, because as you've said in your comment, Beth, we'll look at the coaching and mentoring aspect and think, actually, how much of our curriculum does that cover? Great, you might have done, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it might be. So if you send that overview across, then we'll map that as we will all the other bits. Yes, someone asked about the actual Teams files, about where it will be saved. So yeah, we'll share that log out, and then at the end of every term, when you send your report across, then we will then log that centrally as well. So we've got it on from both sides. I was going to pause on the questions and we'll collate them a bit later on. I just want to go through, because we mentioned it quite a few times now, and most of you won't have seen this before. So I'm just going to share my screen.
While you're doing that, Dirk, I will just answer one question around the hours that can be claimed. Yes, it is the class mentor. So it's the mentor who is eligible to claim for the funding for the hours. So it must therefore be the class mentor, the mentor who is completing that training.
Yeah, so I think we mentioned earlier, so if people are joining us now, basically the DfE compliance criteria says it's the one-to-one relationship. So it's the class mentor, they call it the general mentor. So learning coaches and ITT coordinators don't have a one-to-one relationship with the trainee. So by all means, you've come along today, and I know you'll start playing a massive part, and we're not sort of like negating that. But in terms of claiming for hours, it's the class mentor. The DfE call them the general mentor, who can claim the hours, is what they're saying. We're going on their guidance. You can claim directly to them, so we have to almost like just parrot what they're saying. I'd just like to talk you through LMS 365. So it's a learning platform that's going to be available for not just for yourselves, but trainees will have sections. And actually, trainees are the first people to use this, because last summer we had sort of like phase 0 on here. So we had a number of trainees trial this for us, and they've got their own catalogue. And at the moment, I'm in the catalogue for mentors. I've got mine sitting in Teams. When you click the link, it might load it up in SharePoint, but basically it works in SharePoint, it works in Teams. It's not made by Microsoft, but it works seamlessly with the Microsoft suite of Teams, SharePoint, and other software that they may have. So you'll see it sitting on my Teams in the bottom there, so I can load it up at any time. And as I said, I'm in the ILTT mentor catalog at the moment, and I can go into the trainee one. So at first, we've got 2 modules at the moment. Lisa's shown all the modules that we're looking at. We're designing them and recording them at the moment, and then they'll be put in here ready for the start of the new year. So by the end of term, we'll have all these recorded on there. We'll have the massive task of uploading you all and giving you all the rights to be able to access this system. You'll get an email, and then ready for hopefully for September. So it will be for September, but if it's earlier, it's earlier. But for September, definitely you have access to this. First, the 2 things you'll see there, they're in the wrong order because that's obviously newer. So I've got this newest training first. But these are our modules. So we've got A, mental handbook module. So Lisa referenced the mental handbook earlier. And B, with some work we did on trainee assessments are in there now as well. So some of Phil's videos are on there. Everything else are there for you to use. So we've left these in here because we think this is really good use. If you do want to have a look and reminder of how to use SharePoint, things like Yammer that you might use in the classroom, some little bits there, some Microsoft-based stuff. And then at the bottom as well, there's some more. So these Go One. So these are modules that are available for you to use for free. So if you want to have a look at maybe public speaking, remote working, other modules available as well. But ours are these first 2 here.
Dirk,
go on.
I'm really sorry. I can't see your screen.
Can anyone else
see it?
You're not sharing, mate. I can't see. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Someone should have said earlier.
Well, you were in full flow, and I didn't want to interrupt.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't know why that didn't work. I didn't click it. Hopefully you can see that now. So as you can see what I was talking through there. So LMS 365, it's on my Teams. Mentor Catalog is the one I'm in. The A and B are our modules there. So our first 2 modules are in there. These are all the Microsoft-based ones I just quickly mentioned. And Go One are these other ones that LMS 365 have paid external people to put some modules in there. So you'll be able to access all of them as well. But the important ones are probably ours. You can obviously narrow it down here. So you just see the Inspiring Leaders ones. But if I go into the mental handbook one first, I'm just going to show you this. So it gives you a little overview. You can rate it if you want. So obviously 5 stars is what you'll all be giving it, I'm sure. Now, I've already started to mess about with this and trial it, so you'll see I'm partway through with it, but it gives you a little course description, what it's going to cover, and then it's got my learning progress. So you see I'm 46.7% through, and then in the content section, it's got 10 modules, and these all link to the mental handbook, which Lisa showed earlier, and hopefully you've seen before. If you're new to Inspiring Leaders, the new version will get sent out as well. So I've obviously had a little play, started to start some of these. Some of them I haven't started yet. But if I go into Introduction to Mentoring, you'll see there's different sections here. There's a description of what it covers and who it's mainly aimed at. So it's for all mentors. This one, as Lisa said, there will be some mandatory ones to do. So the first bit is download course material. So if I go to that bit first to show you. So this is where you can get access to the slides, because some of these slides, you might want to print out, you might want to make notes on as well. Because what Lisa does, and other people do, I know Lisa's recorded these, that's why I'm mentioning what Lisa's done. There'll be periods where you will pause. So Lisa will say in her video, pause now, and in your workbook or wherever, make some notes, and then reflect on it, and then come back and play the video again. That obviously gets over that idea of you're in a room by yourself, like who you're going to speak to about that breakout room or whatever. So you can download the slides and you can use them. Other modules will have other stuff you can download. Maybe it's a model or a bit of educational research that you can then print out if you like to make notes and highlight. It then goes to the video. So I'll quickly play this, but Lisa won't want me to play too much of it. But this is a short video releaser.
Hello and welcome to this short session to introduce you to mentoring with Inspiring Leaders Skit. My name is Lisa Van. I'm the Early Career Lead at Flying High Teaching School Hub, and I'm going to be talking with you in this short session about some of the introductory notes. And
you get the idea that that's how that they will play out. So you'll be able to watch that, pause it. So even though it's a 6-minute video, as Lisa said, these might take about half an hour. And then at the end, this isn't a pass or fail quiz, by the way. I haven't passed this one, but we've changed this now. So these are just little, almost like reminders of the key thoughts at the end. So we're changing these so they won't be pass or fail quizzes, but just little takeaways. Can you remember what the key points were of each of them? So that's how these work. You see there's 10 of these. So I can go to another one about core content framework. Again, there's the course materials. So we've got the core concept framework document from the DFE in here, and our slides. There's a video and a quiz on that one. Rosenshine's principles. So again, course materials there. There's the slides and also further reading. Rosenshine's video. Then there's a thing on session reflections as well. So some won't have quizzes, some will have sort of like little questions that will be posed. And again, on your journal or your the handbook, if you print it out, you can make notes on that there. So you'll be working through these, and then we'll get a log of these as well. So if one of the questions is, how are we checking if we do get asked, that this is getting logged. That's why we're using this sort of like sophisticated system. That it's a great way of working through a series of modules, evidencing that you've completed the whole of this module. And also then we'll have evidence on your log on that you've completed that. So we'll triangulate it with your log form as well. So that's how that works there. If I can go back to the catalogue. I'll quickly show you what the assessment one looks like. So if I go into the trainee assessment one. And the idea behind this was those who work with Phil in Leicestershire Primary and beyond will know that he's got a series, loads. We've got a massive database of videos that Phil's been recording. It was how do we get those rather than having to like rewrite it all and reinvent the wheel. How do we get them all recorded in? So you'll see here that we started to do the same sort of thing. So this is how to fill in an autumn term report. So this was a good trial of how do we using videos we've already got. You can see the documents are available there. And again, I won't necessarily embarrass Phil for too long, but there's a video here that you'll be able to watch.
Talk about how to.
Again, I don't want to embarrass people, but you'll see that then the video's there as well. So these are how these modules will work, both in terms of training modules like Lisa's or instructional videos of how do I do this like Phil's, and there'll be the combination of both within here. So wherever you need will be almost like a one-stop shop for anything you need to be a mentor, whether it's about the 20 hours or not. Like, it's like I said before, I think a lot of people from what I'm getting is, let's just get the prior learning sorted. Let's, find out what I need to learn in my role, how I can get better. And then we'll make it work for you. We don't want anyone to do anything above and beyond, you busy people. I say the big thing is having the trainees in your schools is so important. So we don't want this to be a hindrance for any school or any mentor working with us. Hopefully we're making it as streamlined as possible, whilst also ticking those boxes to get the money from the DFE. And if they check what we're doing, hopefully they see we're doing it to a really high standard. That's all my bit done on that. Was there any further questions, Lisa?
No, I don't think.
Someone questioned why they couldn't see my screen. So thanks, Laura. Thank you for that.
I think we've put. Hang on. Yeah, the question is around should we be able to see the computer screen, which we've covered. So I think we're okay with our questions.
Just for final.
If you do have any, do add them in there.
ask some more questions. So obviously I've shown that portfolio, so the learning platform there. Yeah, so hopefully it will make everyone's life easier in terms of finding the great stuff we've got available already, and also new stuff. And also then to log, so, and obviously it won't log the full hours. So if you write on your log sheet that you spend 2 hours on here and it was a 6-minute video, obviously you've been on it, we know that you'll have spent longer, and that's fine as well. We won't be going, hang on a minute, you only spent 6 minutes on it, why are you saying 2 hours? There is some professional judgment there. We understand that you'll have paused and reflected and done the right thing by it. We are going to go for a break now, aren't we, Lisa? I think. Is that right?
Yeah, we are. We're going to pause for a break. So we'll come back at 2:10 and bring everyone together to talk to you about the next section, where you'll be grouped going into breakout rooms with others who have similar experience of mentoring as you. So we'll be into a group of either new mentors, mentors who are new to inspiring leaders, or experienced mentors led by the hub leaders.
So obviously, if you filled that diagnostic in, I think we've had about 30 back, haven't we, Lisa? So if you filled that in, obviously, Lisa's explained it really well, and I think you know which group you're in, but that will gear you towards which pathway you're in. If you not fill that diagnostic in, there's no worry. It will be an open room that you'll be able to join which one you think is more relevant to you. So you'll know which one you're in. The rest of the diagnostic is more breaking down really to the nuances of our curriculum, which areas you want to do more in, because we don't want it to be like have a ceiling on it, that if you're, as I say before, if you've been a mentor for 10 years, there's still stuff you want to learn. We're here and we will put stuff on for you. We don't want it to be there's nothing for me. There's gonna be something for everyone, because as we know, for anyone who's been facilitating on MPQs or whatever recently, I trained over 20 years ago, and all the stuff about educational research, informing, teaching and learning, there's still loads that I know I need to learn on that. So there'll be loads for people to take from it, should you wish.
I guess what we want to say is there's a range to choose from. There are some things that you'll do naturally as a mentor. You'll have visits from your professional tutor, and you'll have your moderation meetings to support you in the report writing, and for hub leaders to share sort of the thinking around where we would grade a trainee, where we would place a trainee. And then there's a range of other resources that are going to be available to you to be the best mentor that you can be.
Yeah, great. Okay, so take the 15 minutes break. Think of any other questions, and we'll make sure we answer them as best we can. If we don't know them, we'll go away and say we don't know them and come back to you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.